Hello friends, today I am going to talk about named argument in C# that was introduced in C# 4.0. We'll learn what named arguments are and when and how to use it in a C# program. So before we get started, just a quick reminder to subscribe my channel, hit the red button and don't forget to click on the little bell icon. That way you will be notified every time I upload a new video. Okay, without any further delay, let's get started. Named argument in C#. What is name arguments? Name arguments enables us to specify an argument for a parameter by matching the argument with its name rather than with its position in the parameter list. It can be used with methods, indexers, constructors, and delegates. When we use named arguments, they are evaluated in the order in which they appear in the argument list, not the parameter list. Okay, let's try to understand it with the help of examples shown over here. So here what I have done, I have defined a static method add that accepts three input parameters num1, num2 and num3 of in data type and returns also in data type. This method just performs addition operation against these three numbers and returns the result. So there are two ways by which we pass the arguments to a method by calling it. The first way is the traditional way where we use positional arguments. You must be thinking, what is positional arguments? Positional arguments are nothing but the arguments that need to be included in the proper position or order. And that's what, if you see this one, where result is equal to add 10, 15 and 25. When we are passing the value at the position order. So this 10 is going to get considered as a num1, 15 is going to get considered as a num2 and 25 is going to get considered as a num3. We have passed this argument in the same fashion what the parameter value is going to accept by this method. Okay, so second way is the name argument way, in which we specify an argument for a parameter by matching the argument with its name rather than its position in the parameter list. So if you see, I wrote here result is equal to add num1 10, num2 15, num3 25. So if you see this parameter position, first position is having num1, second position num2 and third position is num3, and here I have given num1 10, num2 15, num3 25. Basically we have passed this named argument in the same order. We can also write the named argument in the different order, and that's what I have written. Result is equal to add num2 15, num3 25 and num1 is equal to 10. So if you see this num2 is basically in this method we are having in the middle position, but I have written at the first position itself while calling this method using this named argument way. So we can write in the different order as long as we are having all these named arguments mentioned in the calling when we are calling this method. We can also pass named argument with positional arguments. So there are two cases. Case 1, named arguments can follow positional argument easily. What does it mean is we need to write the positional argument first as per the parameter order of the method and the named arguments. And it's valid to write in C#, and that's what I have written. Add 10, 15 and then num3 25. Now see the case number 2a. The positional argument can also follow named arguments provided they are in the correct sequence. If you see here, I have called this num1 10, num2 15 and at the third position I have passed this positional argument, that is the 25. If you see, num1 belongs to the first position, num2 belongs to the second position and num3 we have not mentioned this named argument, instead we have passed this positional argument, and it's valid to write because these num1 num2 we have put it at the correct order, right? So it's valid to write like this. Now consider the case 2b. If correct sequence if we are going to mention, then positional argument can also be placed at their correct position with the named argument. If you see here, I have written first argument as a named argument, then I have written the positional argument, and the third position I have written the named argument again. But if you notice, I have written two named argument num1 and num3, and here because this 15 we did not mention as a named argument, but it is pretty much clear that 15 is nothing but the positional argument that is going to point as a num2 because we have written this named argument in the correct order. So num1 10 and num3 25, it's are in the correct order itself, so it's valid to write. Now if you see, I have written num1 15, num3 10 and 10 here. So what is going to happen? num1 value is 15. That's correct because we have put the correct position. But if you see num3, I have written at the second position, and here also 10 we have mentioned at the third position. So this 10 is not going to get derived by the compiler because num3 we have already mentioned over here. So that's what it is just going to produce error. What is the error? So named argument num3 is used out of position but is followed by an unnamed argument. That's what this errors is going to come. Okay, let's switch to the Visual Studio and see all these things in action. So here we are on Visual Studio. Here we are going to see the demo of the named arguments in C Sharp. So first of all, what I have done, I have created one console application named argument in C Sharp that has program.cs file. In program.cs file, we have class named program that has two methods. First is the add method, which is a static method that is going to accept three input parameters, num1, num2, num3, and it is just going to perform this addition operation on these parameters and returning the result as a summation result. So that's what this method is doing. Now there is another method, main method, which is an entry point of this application. So here what I am doing, I am just printing this statement named argument demo in C sharp because I'm just giving the demo of the named arguments over here. And here I have called this method by passing the arguments in different way. The first is the traditional way where I have used this positional argument. That's what I have written, add 10, 15, 25. Basically, I'm just calling this add method inside this console.writeLine statement, right? So basically what I am doing, I'm just printing this statement result by traditional way call, and then finally I'm just calling this method, add method. And this 10, 15, 25 is nothing but is just going to point in the same order num1, num2 and num3. So 10 belongs to num1, 15 belongs to num2 and 25 belongs to num3. And it is just going to perform this addition operation, and then it is just going to return the result. Whatever the result that we are going to receive, I am just printing into this console window by this statement. Okay, so that is the first way, that is the traditional way where we are using positional arguments. Okay, now if you see named argument way, so basically how we are going to write the named argument way, we just need to write parameter name colon the value, parameter name colon value, parameter name colon value. And if you see here, I have written num1, num2, num3 basically in the same order, right? The named argument I have written in the same order. I have value against it. So basically this is the way how we are going to write this named argument in the same order. We can also write in the different order because this num2, if you see the second line here, num2 50, num3 25, num1 colon 10. So basically the compiler is going to decide based on this named argument. So here in this calling method, the first argument, that is the named argument num2 colon 15, it is going to point this middle parameter of this method, right? So it is just going to point this method. Similarly, this num3 and num1, it is just going to point this num3 and num1 accordingly. So it is going to get decided by the named parameter itself, and that's what we are saying, the named argument over here. Okay, so here we are just calling the named argument way, right? Now we can also write the named arguments with the positional argument. How we can write it? If you see here, if we are going to write the positional argument first, 10, 15 and num3 25. So here what is happening? The named argument is going to get followed the positional argument, and it's valid to write because 10 it's just going to point num1, 15 it is just going to point num2, and here I have mentioned this named argument num3 that is going to point as a 25 to that particular method, right? So that is the named argument can follow the positional argument easily. Positional argument can also follow named arguments provided they are in the current sequence. Okay, it's very important. If you see here, I have written num1, 10, num2, 15 and 25. I have written this named argument first. Name num1, it is just going to point the num1 of that particular method. Num2, same, and this 25 I have written as a positional argument, and it's valid to write because the compiler is going to get decide, okay, num1 already pointed to, num2 already pointed to, and this position is basically belongs to num3. So this 25 value is nothing but the value of the num3 only. So it's valid to write it because we have written these things in the sequence order, num1, num2 and then this sequence order. Let's suppose if you are going to write num1 10 and num3 25, so here also sequence is getting maintained, and here in between 15 I have passed, but I have not mentioned as a named argument. Instead I have used this positional argument. So 15 is nothing but is just going to point to the num2 of this method, so it's valid to write the case this one also. But you see here, if you are going to write the num1 10, num3 25 and then 15, if you see, this is not a correct order, because num1 after that it should come num2, but here I have written num3 25, and also the third position I have the mentioned 15, I have mentioned 15. So this is the conflict, right? Because this 15 position belongs to the num3, but here I have mentioned num3. If we are going to write num2 colon 55, so then that's valid, because everything is going to get derived from this named argument itself. But here, whenever we are going to use positional and the named argument together, so it should maintain this sequence, otherwise it's very difficult to uh, decide. So here num3 it should not write. If we are going to write num2, then it's valid, but if we are going to write num3 25 and 15, then it's a contradict. So it is just going to throw an error. What is the error? It will be throwing error like named argument num3 is used out of position but is followed by the unnamed argument. Okay, so let me uncomment this and let me show you this error to you. Okay, let me go and execute this. Okay, if you see there were build errors, would you like to continue and run the last build? No. If you go and see this error, what this error is saying, it is saying the named argument num3 is used out of position but is followed by an unnamed argument. That's what, it's not valid to write like this. Okay, let me comment this part. Okay, I have commented this line. Now let me execute this. Now output got appears into the console window. If you see named argument demo in C# got printed. Result by traditional way call 15. Result by named argument way same order 50. Result by named argument way different order 50 and 50 50 50. Right. So all these statements got executed where we have written in the different fashion. If you see here, what I have done, I have written this call first, right? So first call was at 10 25, and this is the result by traditional way call. It got called and 50. Now I have written calling method using the named arguments. Same order and the different order. Same order and different order got printed, right? 50 50 result. And the other way, right? The three statement that we have written. The first one is the like this 10 15 num3 where I have written the first positional argument and then named argument. So it's valid to write, and that's what we got the output as a 50. Here also positional argument I have written can follow the named argument provided they are in the correct sequence. Num1, num2, and this is the positional arguments. It also got printed as a 50. Now if you see this statement, because sequence I have maintained, num1 and num3 are in the correct position, and 15 I have written as a positional argument, and it also got printed value as a 50. So all these things are valid to write it, right? And that's what we got this output. Now you must be thinking why named arguments are needed, right? After knowing all these things, you must be able to answer this. Let me tell you. You could say that the main advantage of named argument in C# is that we can pass the arguments out of their positional order, and we don't have to remember the order of the parameters, right? It also increases the readability of the application, especially in the cases where all the arguments are the same type. Now that brings me to end of my session. To sum up, in this video we learned what named arguments are and how and when to use it in a C# program. That's all for this video, guys. If you like this video, hit the like button, share it with your friends and colleagues, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done already. Thanks for watching. See you next video.